Just say one word, that Be'etzim Vayidoim Aaron. There are no words. Mitzad Sheni, in this specific matzav over here, my Talmud who was nifter, of Moshe Bergman, Zeichat Tzadik Levracha, it's not only a personal tragedy, it's not only a Klal Yisrael tragedy, it's a tragedy and a tsar for the Aguda. How's it a tsar for the Aguda? Because this shir that we learned together, when I call the Aguda Koilel, the Koilel of Agudas Yisrael, our Koilel, that we learn all the different sugyas and the sugyas of Shabbos. Moshe Zeichat Tzadik Levracha, my Talmud, was a part of that Koilel too. He would listen to the shir just like the other Chabura members, just like the other Bnei HaKoilel, and we all have to be mishtatif in that tsar. But I think that most of us have had already, unfortunately, the Shleishi Mei Bechi, and to give us the responsibility of the Noisei Be'ol Chaveiroi and to feel the tsar. I think all of us are feeling the tsar. When that doesn't feel the tsar, then there's no leif to talk to Bechlal. So we all feel the tsar. If anything, I think we need the chizik to be able to go fighter. And I'll say one word. If I'm not mistaken, I was under the impression that they're good also. There was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a shir that was given also to the Olam to be mechazik the Olam in that situation. And there are various shirim bichlal that are. So one word, the Satmar Rebbe Zeichat Tzadik Levracha, after the war, the Satmar Rebbe gathered a group of the Chassidim, and they would learn together, I think, between Mincha and Ma'ariv. So the Satmar Rebbe on the first day, there was a whole group there. He opened up the Gemara, and to sit there to start a daf shir, a Gemara shir. He turned to the first chassid that was next to him, and he said to him, "No," and he started talking to him. "Was Herzog, how are you?" Told him. Started telling his matzav shver. He went to the next chassid, and one by one, he went around the whole entire chabura, the ganze oilam, and he asked them how they're doing and what they're doing. Tomorrow, he looked at the clock. He said, "All right, it's a shine sight. It's late already. We'll continue tomorrow." And he closed the Gemara. The next day, the same thing. And this went on basically for the whole year. Every day the Satmar Rebbe would open the Gemara and he would say to him, "What's with the business? Did we decide this? We did decide that. Then what's with you? Are we going to go for that shidduch?" And this would go on. The Satmar Rebbe would look at this clock and then he would close the Gemara at the end of the shir. And he would say, "Okay, tomorrow we'll go weiter." After a year, the Satmar Rebbe one day opened up the Gemara and he started to read the Mishnah. So one of the Chassidim, he turned to the Rebbe. He said, "Rebbe, you didn't ask me what happened yesterday." But the Rebbe turned to him. He said, "No. Learning. We're in the middle of learning right now." The next chassid turned to the Rebbe and said, "Rebbe, that idea that we spoke about," told him idea yesterday does. I can't talk about that. We're in the middle of a Gemara right now. So they asked the Rebbe, "No, Rebbe, what's going on?" So some Rebbe said, "You were after the war is to give Sabrechen a mention. You're broken people." So the first thing is we have to make you into people. After we make you into people, who's learning the Daf Gemara. Learning a Daf Gemara. You have to learn the Daf Gemara now. So it took a year for them. They were after the war, the whole war, the churban that it was. It took a year to make them into people. Us, it's going to take time to make us into people. But upon him, once we get that strength, we have to have the realization to realize that if we're here, so then we have to take the message that a life of Torah and mitzvahs, that's what the life is. A life of Torah, that's what is tachlis. To learn Torah b'simcha, there's no shayla. My Talmud, he would have wanted this chabura, our chabura, the koilel Agudas Yisrael, to learn weiter b'simcha. And I heard a murdik at the hair from my Yedid, Rabbi Rabbi Gadisman, our Yedid, our Rosh HaKoilel. And he said, "A davar nifla, mamish." I'm still misspelled from the Vart. He told me almost 24 hours ago, and I'm still misspelled from the Vart, that when you see it says Vayidoi Maharin, the pasuk says Vayida Maharin, after his children were nifter, after his koil had such a tragedy. So it says Vayidoi, Aaron was quiet. Yet you find something most shocking. And the Gemara has one of the most difficult sugyas in Psachim, the Talmid Chachamim that just learned Psachim know, one of the most difficult sugyas that came out of the Vayidoi Maharin. That sugya which discusses what's the din, why they didn't bring the korban, Aaron was an oinen, all very difficult sugya. What was the reason why they didn't bring the korban and whatnot? And that whole sugya was born on the moitzei, on the ptira of the children of Aaron. So it says Vayidoi Maharin. Aaron was quiet, and in the same sentence, the whole entire massive difficult sugya was nischadish. because vice the vayidaim Aaron is the vayidaim is we're not asking the questions now, and we're not trying to figure out why, it may be too much of a sakonin meiron and this. We understand that the message is the ikar, the circumstance is not the ikar, and the message is the vayidoim of everything else, and being quiet about everything else and what's not important, and to focus on Torah, and to realize that if we have to continue and we have to take that moyerdika kiddush. Why do I call it kiddush Hashem? Because if the whole world was nisoira, then it was a moyerdika kiddush Hashem. So we have to take that lesson that there was a moyerdika kiddush Hashem. The whole entire world was nisoira, that there's nothing except for Torah and mitzvahs. And the whole entire world got chizik from such. So Vayidaim Aaron, let's learn from the sugis with the Gishmak, the Bnei Chabura, the Bnei HaKoilel, the Koil that Moshe was a part of. And Bez Hashem, that'll be an Ili Nishmasai, Nishmasam, and Alavai will be Zaycha to see him soon with such a tremendous rash in the world. It's stomach not far away, not far away at all. Let's learn Bez Hashem Havdalah. No, what's the Maisa before we start? Well, you have to start with a Maisa. The Chidah, when he was 4 years old, his father said to him, there was a fight, a machlekes that broke out between the Chidah and his sister, I guess the Chidet. And there was a machlekes that broke out between them about holding the Besam and holding the Ner, excuse me. So the father of the Chidah said, whoever can tell me what's the reason why we have the Seder of Boy Priagaf and Besamim Eish and then Havdalah, tell me the reason for the Seder, so then he'll be the one that gets to hold the Ner. So the Chidah, 4 years old, the Chidah said, of course, because Mailin Bakoidish Ve'ein Moiridin, because we start out with the Boyer Priagafen, which is in the mouth, the nose is the Besamim, higher up, the eyes, and then the Seichel, which is the highest, but there's much more Aboisai. It's Be'emes Mailin Bakoidish Ve'ein Moiridim. You start out with a Gashmiistic sense of the drinking, which is much more of a grubba sense, you have to take it into your mouth. Besamim is something that you could smell a little bit further away. Eyes is something that a person can see from sometimes for miles, for hundreds of feet, certainly. And the seichel, with the seichel, a person is able to touch the Rebbeinu Shalom Kivyachal. He's able to touch a whole different world. He's able to attach himself to a different world. So it's Mailim B'Kodesh Ve'ein Moiriden. So with this, let's try to get into what is the etzim. Some of the halachas of Havdalah. We'll be focusing mostly Siman Reish Sadi Vav, maybe a little bit in Siman Reish Sadi Tes. So let's get Bez Hashem, the halacha l'maisa, Hamaisa Asher Yasim. First of all is the lashon of the Heilige Rambam. The Rambam l'maisa in the Sugi of Havdalah. It's a famous Rambam in Perek Chav Tes. I say it's a famous Rambam. It should be a famous Rambam. Al Kapanim. Rambam has a beautiful lashon. Mitzvah Sasem Nat Torah. The sheet of the Rambam is borer. Is that Havdalah is a din d'oraisa, a person is mechuyev to make Havdalah, and why, says the Rambam? Mitzvah Sasem Nat Torah lekadish as hayoyim. You have to make kiddush on the day. Shenemar Zachras Yom Shabbos, Kloimar Zachreu, and this is Divrei Shevach and Kiddush, and you have to be Zoicheret in Knisa and Yitzia. Beknisa, Bekiddush, Ubitzia B'Havdalah. If you ask the Rambam, is Havdalah deraisa? The Rambam will say to you, is Kiddush deraisa? If you ask the Rambam, what's Havdalah? He'll say, I don't know Havdalah. There's something called Kiddush. There's two Kiddushes. There's a Kiddush in the beginning, and you have to separate Shabbos. You take Shabbos and you put it into a box. Shabbos is Milmailam in Isman, Shabbos is Milmailam in everything. This Shabbos, I found out right before Shabbos that the Talmud was nifter. Shabbos is different though. Shabbos is different. Shabbos is no, Shabbos, a person has to focus Shabbos. Shabbos is Milmailam in Isman, Milmailam in Ateva. Kiddush in the beginning, Kiddush at the end, to separate it. The Kiddush in the beginning is called Kiddush. The Kiddush at the end is called Havdalah, but it's the same mitzvah. Show that Shabbos is different from the rest of the week. The way I do that in the beginning of Shabbos is I make Kiddush. I say we're coming into a Shabbos with Divrei Shevach. When I leave Shabbos, I say Divrei Preda. I say Hamavdil, Ben Kodesh L'Chayil. I recognize that something is, that we're going back into, not the real world, we're going back into the fake world. We're leaving the world of Gan Eden, the Me'ein Olam Haba. We're leaving the world of Shabbos. So therefore, if you want to know, according to the sheet of the Rambam, is Havdalah deraisa, the Chavada, and this is Be'emes, is the first shita brought in the Shulchan Aruch, that Havdalah is taka deraisa. The Shulchan Aruch brings another shita, Yeshoimrim, that maybe it's not, we'll see soon. But Al Kapanim, the Iker Shitas HaPoiskim is that Havdalah is deraisa. And that we'll see in a minute is a very big nafkamina Rabbeisai. Because before we even begin, if I know that Havdalah is deraisa, and I know that where do I learn out Havdalah from? I learn it out from Kiddush. It's a part of the same pasuk of Zakar Zayim Shabbos L'Kadshay. So everybody here knows that Kol Shechayiv B'Shmira is Chayiv B'Schira, and that a woman is Chayiv in Kiddush. And if I know that Havdalah is in a sense a Kiddush, it's the Kiddush at the end of Shabbos, so then I know that women are chayiv. And that's clearly the Shitas of Rambam, and that you have to know about is the Ikra Shita. The Ikra Shita is that we paskin that Havdalah is deraisa. Now it happens to be that once a person says the Mishabura and Sivkat and Aleph already mentioned Havdalah and Tefillah, which is the Takana of the Rabbanon. But once he mentioned Havdalah and Tefillah, he is certainly already Yotzei the Havdalah deraisa, the requirement of Havdalah deraisa, and therefore the Havdalah that he's making on the Kais, quite possibly and clearly is going to be a Rabbanon. But the etzim chiyav and responsibility to be making Havdalah, the Mishabura, Meikra Din Paskins, that it is a deraisa. So let's go to a shaila to try and bring out. The emes is, what's the nafkamina if Havdalah is deraisa or not? Okay, so I said one nafkamina might be women, because if Havdalah is only the Rabbanon, so then we're going to see, and that was really what gives the credence to certain shitas of the Paiskim, or Cheschaim, Rishayim, that if Havdalah, is the Rabbanon, and that means that we're obviously not learning it that it's a chelik of Kiddush, it's a separate Kiddush. We're obviously learning out that it's a din that the Chazal instituted, not to just leave Shabbos, and it's special praise and shevach to not just leave Shabbos as if nothing happened, and to be malava. If that's true, that's not a din in Shabbos. That's a din in Motzei Shabbos, and that's a din d'Rabbanan. And then that's a regular mitzvah sasei shazman gerama. If it's a regular mitzvah sasei shazman gerama, then a woman could be pater. But mashenka, when you're learning like the Rambam, which that we're going to see is the Shita. So then Kiddush is deraisa, Havdalah is deraisa, Kiddush a lady's chayiv, Havdalah lady's chayiv. So Bez Hashem, that's the Ikar Shita, and we have to see that's nafkamina number one. But another nafkamina will be what happens if a person wants to know, can I let my bar mitzvah boy, it's a very nice way to end this wonderful bar mitzvah Shabbos, can my bar mitzvah boy be moitzi me in Havdalah? It's a nice thing. After the bar mitzvah boy will be moitzi everybody. Or let's say a person is going away on a trip, a business trip or something, and he leaves behind his wife, and he leaves behind his son, and his son is, let's call him a bar mitzvah boy. Could the bar mitzvah boy be moitzi his mother? Okay, so let's think. If Havdalah is D'Rabbanan, okay, there's much to talk about, even though we know that a child is certainly only chayiv D'Rabbanan, and even a bar mitzvah boy of 13, we know that it's only because of Chazaka the Rabbah that we assume that he's an adult. But if you don't know that the Shtei Cyrus, so then we don't know that he's an adult. And therefore, he might not be chayiv min haTorah. If he's not chayiv min haTorah, so then if Havdalah is deraisa, he might not be able to be moitzi his mother, who has a chayiv deraisa. And same thing with the bar mitzvah boy. If he is only a katan and Havdalah is deraisa, he might not be able to be moitzi the tzibur because Havdalah is deraisa, and he only has a chayiv d'Rabbanan. But this already, we might have a way out, because since he said Havdalah and Tefillah already, meaning everybody at the bar mitzvah said Havdalah and Shmoneh Esrei. So then, when he's saying Havdalah now, he's making Havdalah for people that only have to be Yotzei Midrabanan. If he only has to be Yotzei Midrabanan, so then him, which he might only have a Chiyuv D'Rabbanan, can be Moitzi all of them, that they have a Chiyuv D'Rabbanan. This gets complicated because he might be a double D'Rabbanan because he also is Yotzei in Tefillah. But that's maybe why there's a meaning by some people that at Motzei Shabbos of a bar mitzvah, the bar mitzvah boy makes Havdalah. I don't have this meaning, but some people have it, and that's the reason why, because they already made Havdalah during Shmoneh Esrei, but that's only good for the men. But for the ladies, that's a very big problem, because for the ladies, they didn't say Atachain and Tanu, which brings us to a shaila. When you say Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'Choil, will you Yotzei Havdalah min haTorah? There's an Aruch HaShulchan in Sivkat and Gimel. He brings down that nusach might be, it comes all the way from Adam Marishan, and it could be a Yotzei min haTorah. So look, most ladies anyway said Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'Choil, and she should say Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'Choil before she does anything anyways. So therefore, that's already the first idea that you have. If Havdalah is deraisa, we have to really work hard to figure out if a bar mitzvah boy could be making Havdalah for number one, for the tzibur, and number two, for his mother. At least if she says Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'Choil, there's going to be what to talk about. That's number one. Number two is the famous shaila over here of saying Shavua Tov. Now, you should always say Shavua Tov, or Agit Tevach, or Agut Tevach, whatever religion you are. But you should always say Shavua Tov. But can I be Yotzei Havdalah with Shavua Tov? Now, we heard a shaila from Rebbe Kiva Eger about saying Good Shabbos and being Yotzei Kiddush. But what about if I say Agit Tevach, or Agut Tevach, or Shavua Tov? Can I be Yotzei Havdalah by saying some type of a yachas expression that relates to Motzei Shabbos? Is it enough to say have a good week? And this is a famous shaila that was done by the Goyim Shlomo Zalman. Even the Tzitz Eliezer has a tshuva about this in Chelek Yud Aleph and Siman Lamed Daled. What's the nafkamina? You get into a cab on a Motzei Shabbos in Eretz Yisrael. The cab driver, the bus driver, it doesn't have to be a cab, and the cab driver, Leida, is a Frayid, Chilaini, didn't make Kiddush, he didn't make Avdallah, he didn't make anything. So now you want to be Mizaka Yid. He's doing work before he made Avdallah, which is Nissa to do Malacha before Avdallah. So you want to say to him, Shavua Tov, and hopefully he'll say back, Shavua Tov, or at least maybe have Kavanah that you'll be Moitziim with your Shavua Tov. Maybe he's in a bad mood. He didn't keep Shabbos Nachaltz. So does that work? Can I say Shavua Tov and be Moitziim in Avdallah? So the truth is that the Goyim Shlomo Zalman, he said, no. In the Shmir Shabbos, you have to say Baruch Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'Choil. He says it's not like Kiddush. By Kiddush, you have to say maybe just good Shabbos to say a praise of Shabbos, but by Avdallah, you need words of Avdallah. That's what the Goyim Shlomo Zalman said, and therefore he said it doesn't help. Now it's very interesting. Shlomo Zalman did say that in the Shmir Shabbos, but in the Alicha Shlomo in Tefillah Perek Beis Ha'ara Mem Hey, it says Hider Rabbeinu himself would dafka say Shavua Tov to the cab driver. Now you think maybe it's just because Shlomo Zalman was a tzaddik, so he's being nice to the cab driver, but he went out of his way not to say Shalom. And he said, Halavai, if you can get the cab driver to say Baruch HaMavdil, that's even better. So it seems to be that Shlomo Zalman entertains it sad that if you say Shavua Tov, that is Avdallah. Now I must tell you, I really hear a very big tzad why a good tevach or Shavua Tov would work for the cab driver. I mean, the Ma'aser Abayisai, if you think about it, if you learn like the Rambam, the Torah wants, at least Minat Torah, the Torah wants that you should differentiate and make Shabbos distinct. Make sure you mention in the beginning that Shabbos is distinct. Make sure you mention at the end Shabbos is distinct. I don't know, Abayisai, is there any other day in the week that a person says Shavua Tov? I don't think so. All the Chilayim know very well when we say Shavua Tov, why we're saying Shavua Tov. They know that we're saying that this is a new week. What makes something into a new week? I think by the Arabs, the new week starts on Shabbos. I think, I don't know. But what makes something into a new week? Right? By the Goyim, the new week probably doesn't start until 12 o'clock at night on Saturday night. By us, the new week starts Moed Shabbos. Moed Shabbos is a new week. So we're mentioning that it's different. We're showing a difference. So maybe that, for the Rambam, Minat Torah at least is enough. Maybe for the Rambam, that would be enough Minat Torah. And therefore, there is a big inyan to say to the cab driver. No, but I'll tell you a little bit more. Let's dan bichlal, Rabbi Isai, is a person that did not keep Shabbos, is he chayiv in Shabbos, in Avdallah? Is he chayiv in Avdallah? Person that didn't keep Shabbos. What's the shaila? Look, Maisa, there are situations. I was told that there was a person, Baruch Hashem, it sounds like he's having refuah shlema, that the whole Shabbos, this last Shabbos, he was, Rachmana litzlan, he was in that situation on Lag BaOmer, and he was in some sort of a coma the entire Shabbos. And Baruch Hashem, he woke up. Baruch Hashem, he woke up on Sunday. Baruch Hashem, and they say he's going to have refuah shlema, halavai. Akapanim, does he have to make Havdalah? He didn't keep Shabbos. He did not keep Shabbos, but he didn't keep Shabbos. So does he have to make Avdallah? And what about a person that's a Chilaini? He didn't keep Shabbos. So does he have to make Avdallah? So there's a very interesting Hagoyis from the Rasag, and the Hagoyis from Rasag Goyim. And he says, Kevin Shein is Shoivus mi Malacha, Ein Kan Markim LeKiddush, V'lo Avdallah, Ein Kiddush Hagoyim. There's no market for such a thing. Someone that doesn't shomer Shabbos, the whole Avdallah is to show that Shabbos is different. What are you making Avdallah on? You didn't keep Shabbos. So there's a tzad to say that maybe this Chilaini fellow, he doesn't need Avdallah. What do you mean he needs Avdallah? He didn't keep Shabbos. Maybe there's no market for him. And I saw something incredible. They asked the question to Goyin Reb Chaim Kanievsky. They have these journals that come out in Eretz Yisrael called Alibet Hilchos. And they asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky, this Shaila, you're allowed to get into a cab with a Chilaini and Motzei Shabbos. He didn't say Baruch HaMavdil. So he writes back, Loi Haya Loi Shabbos. He didn't have Shabbos. Ma'u Yaseh Avdallah. What's he making Avdallah on? Right? Ala Chilul Shabbos Shalai. Reb Chaim Kanievsky, he's making Avdallah on his Chilul Shabbos. Maybe the only time there's Avdallah is if you had Shabbos. Now you have to be Mavdil and show that Shabbos is different. According to this, the person that was not well the whole Shabbos, you could dan. Maybe that's better because he wasn't Mechalel Shabbos. I saw on this Shiloh specifically that Rav Moshe Sternbach, so sein gesund, he has a whole ganze tshuva about this Indian, and he wants to say, a chiddush Rav Moshe Sternbach is in Chelik Hey, in Siman Tzadi Tes, and excuse me, Chelik Gimel, Siman Tzadi Aleph. He has a chiddush there, he learns not like this. He says Havdalah is a separate mitzvah, and it's a separate mitzvah that is irrelevant if you kept Shabbos or not. You have to show that Shabbos is different, and you have to show that whether or not you're keeping Shabbos, it's irrelevant. You have to be moided to a Kadosh Baruch Hu on Moitei Shabbos, that a Kadosh Baruch Hu made the Sheishes Yimei HaMaisa, and that he made Shabbos. It doesn't matter about you specifically. And so therefore, just like you have to make Kiddush even if you're not keeping Shabbos, and just like, it doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. And Rav Moshe Sternbach holds like that. But it's very interesting. Chaim holds not like that. But I tell you, everybody, I have gesehen a davar nifla. There's a sefer that they put out from Rav Chaim called the Derech Sicha. In the 272nd page, I was looking up this shaila today, and he brings down. That's why you didn't get the marmakim on this one, Rabbi Isai, because this is fresh off the press. They asked Chaim Kanievsky, a person that's a Baal Tshuva on Motzei Shabbos, does he make Havdalah? Motzei Shabbos, he went to some murdik, his oiris, and he decided that's it. From now on, I'm from. So does he make Havdalah? So Chaim Kanievsky said yes. So they asked Chaim Kanievsky, it's a stira to what you wrote in a different place, that a Chiloini doesn't make Havdalah on a Motzei Shabbos. So Chaim Kanievsky said there's no stira. Baal Tshuva is Oiker L'Mafreya. So L'Mafreya, he was from. Murdik Chiddush from the Goyen Chaim Kanievsky. You did keep Shabbos because Tshuva is Oiker L'Mafreya. By Chaim Kanievsky, it's real. It's not just a piece of art. It's a reality. So yes, you do have to make. As I beside now, you can down. I'll upon him back to our Shaila. No, if you want to get into a cab, it's good to just say Gittavach, a Shavua Tov. Why? Number one, maybe that works. Number one. Oh, what about a ger? I'm being asked here a ger. But that l'chayr, I think everybody agrees he's potter because he didn't have Shabbos bichlal. That's even mistama l'fir Moshe Sternbach. Mistama, that you should know. I have to think about it. L'fir Moshe Sternbach. You know, that's a good shaila. That's a good shaila. I'm being asked over here, and I'll look for one moment. Here I see over here that in the Shulchan Shloima, in the Reish Study Test and Sivkot Test Vav. I see, thank you. It's a very good shaila. Rav Shlomo Zalman says you're potter from Havdalah, but Yesh Ladin, exactly what his reasoning is. That chayla that was sick the entire Shabbos, good side to say that he's potter. The fee this, it would definitely be a very big shaila. Al Kapanim, by the Chiloini, Mistama, there's a very big mokim to say that the Chiloini just say Shavua Toiv. Maybe he doesn't need Havdalah. And even if he does need Havdalah, maybe the pshat that we're saying that Shavua Toiv shows that there's a differentiation between tonight that I do say Shavua Toiv and no other night that I say it. So maybe that's enough. That's the Chayra.
I don't want to interrupt, but you'll have 10 topics between this. And Moshe Sternbach says that one svar to Mechayvim is because at some point he wasn't doing malacha because he was standing, he didn't do malacha. Yeah. So the Mechabura in this topic, does that apply to sleeping? Is sleeping, you can kaim Shabbosoin by sleeping? The Rav has a share on sleeping.
But I think sleeping is a kiyum of Oynik Shabbos. So he's being Mekayim Shabbos there.
So he would be. So that is Shabbos. So he needs Havdalah then, according to this Svara.
So that I can hear more because he's being Mekayim. There's an Oynik in sleeping.
It's not just not doing malacha. There's an actual kiyum of kumbasei.
Yeah, the Maisa, that's farther. Moshe Sternbach says I find extremely difficult because he explicitly is not doing it bedavka, and to say that has any shame of a shvisa on it is a tremendous chiddush.
Why? Because the mitzvah is kavana to be sher.
But here it's not as a mitzvah. We're not trying. If it would be mitzvah, then we would say that you don't need kavana. Here it's a mitzias of a shvisa. If there's nothing changing between him on a Tuesday and a Shabbos, so there's no shame shvisachal on such a thing. It's very difficult. Akopanim, what about children? What about children? A child that goes to sleep on Motzei Shabbos, it's Negeya Taka Mistama now in the summer months. It's Negeya the Oilam now in the summer months. Maybe not as much in America, certainly in England, or also in America. It's already going to be Nacht is 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30 sometimes. Okay, in Eretz Yisrael, it's a little bit earlier, but Akopanim, a child goes to sleep on Motzei Shabbos, so he didn't make Havdalah. So now, does he have to make Havdalah on Sunday morning? What's the halacha about making Havdalah Sunday morning? So this is very interesting. In the Art Scroll book, they bring that the Goyen Rav Moshe Feinstein, in Kovid V'oinig, this is in the Perek Yutes in the Arachaf, he brings down that mitzad adin, they're not chayiv to make Havdalah in the morning. If they went to sleep, Motzei Shabbos, they're not chayiv. Aval, if they want, then he says they could make Havdalah. If they want, they can make Havdalah, but he says that they're not chayiv to make Havdalah. It's only a minik toiv. It's interesting, in the Art Scroll book, he brings down that the minig of Roiv Tfusis Yisrael is takir that they don't make Havdalah, and I think we all agree it's the minig of Roiv Yisrael not. I must tell you, Amos Liankiv, Rabbi Yankiv Kamenetsky, our Rebbe, he says that Bekol Motzei Shabbos in Aktanim, this is in the 525th Ha'ara, in the Amos Liankiv, he says, V'kein Bekol Motzei Shabbos in Aktanim Megillah, if it's a child at a Gila, the Chinuch, child reached the age, okay, maybe Chinuch for Havdalah, 7, 8, 9, whatever, but if you reach the age of Chinuch, so then Sunday morning, you should make Havdalah. You should make Havdalah Sunday morning. The truth is, the Olam is asking, could he eat before Havdalah? A child doesn't have the halachas of not eating in many situations. The Chazal never gave their takanas of not eating to children. So certainly on this one, they didn't give him. We'll see soon, maybe because the Chazal said there's a misa of askara, so some people are a little bit more careful. But the mice I heard from Rav Eliashiv that a child mi'ikra adin is allowed to eat before Havdalah. Okay, maybe there's also something called discipline, and maybe you want to teach your children to wait, but don't blame it on the Torah. But Akopanim, so it's very interesting. Is that a child, it seems to be the minig is not like Rabbi Yankiv. I think you could differentiate though. I think you could differentiate between a child that is 8, 9, 7, he's tired, he falls asleep, it's already 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. It could be that child, if that's his bedtime, there's a difference between a child that one Motzei Shabbos went to sleep early. If the child's bedtime is 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and Mamel he's not getting Havdalah, so then why is that called that he's a bar chinuch? Part of the ingredient of being a bar chinuch is understanding the mitzvah and having the seichel to do it, and part of it is also being able to physically do it. What's it different? The Brisker Rav said when it came to a lulav, what's the shir chinuch of a lulav? A katan, a yedei, and a neah. If the kid doesn't know how to shake, what do you mean shake? He knows how to pick up a lulav. All you have to do is put it in his hand and you yaitse. Nachon. But you want to teach the child how he's going to do the mitzvah when he is older. So Rabbi say two things. Number one, if he goes to sleep, so then maybe he's not physically a bar chinuch. Number two, what's the purpose of chinuch? It's not to get one more mitzvah before his bar mitzvah. The purpose of chinuch is to be mechanech him in the way that he's going to do the mitzvah when he's older. So why would you want to mechanech him in the way that he's not going to do the mitzvah when he's older? He's not going to be making it on Sunday morning. So if you have a child that he's 12 years old and one Motzei Shabbos he fell asleep or he wasn't feeling well, so of course you should be mechanech him to do it Sunday morning, because that is the norm of what is for a person that on a normal situation makes Havdalah for Motzei Shabbos. And if he won Motzei Shabbos not able to make the Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos, he'll make it on Sunday morning. So you teach him what he'll do when he's older. But to go and be mechanech a child who's 8, 9 that goes to sleep every Motzei Shabbos to make Havdalah Sunday morning, what are we doing? We're teaching him to do what we do not want him to do when he's older. You know, there was a ma'aser with Rabbi Yankiv. I think it was connected to one of the Aguda conventions. It was at somebody's house, an Aguda meeting or something, someone told me. And in the middle of the meeting, the child of the balabas who was hosting Rabbi Yankiv and the other Rabbanim jumped onto the table and started to be a little bit, in Hebrew we say mishtolel. It's like a wise guy, quite mischievous. So the father got all nervous and he, was in front of all the Rabbanim. So Rabbi Yankiv told him, listen, we're mechanech for things that the child is going to do when he's an adult. When he's going to be an adult, if he's going to be walking on the table, we're going to have much bigger problems, right? Now, you have to take him down. But Rabbi Yankiv was teaching him, you don't have to get upset about that. You don't have to stress. But what did you learn from Rabbi Yankiv? We're using Rabbi Yankiv to go against Rabbi Yankiv. But what should I say? Rabbi Yankiv teaching us that when we're being mechanech a person for what he's going to do when he's older. So if a child is 8 years old and he's going to sleep every single Motzei Shabbos in the summertime, and you're going to teach him make Havdalah Sunday morning, we're teaching him to do something that we do not want him doing when he's older. If he's 12 and one Motzei Shabbos he falls asleep, no, so then he should do it Sunday morning. This is l'chayra, the halachas of the katan and the chilayning. And now let me gain a bit of weiter. So first of all, let's go through the Seder Dvarim first of all in the actual Havdalah. Very important to remember. First of all, the only part of Havdalah that is ma'akiv as you go through Reish Sadivav over here. If you missed the Bari Priagafen, you yaitse. If you missed the Besamim, you yaitse. If you missed the Eish, you yaitse. The only part that's mak, a person comes late, he's making Havdalah's child comes down late, and he hears the entire bracha of Amavdil ben Kodesh Chol ben Olechaychel and all that. So then he's yaitse. So then he's Yaitse. That's rule number one. Obviously, afterward, he'll make Besamim, he'll make Eish by himself. Also, I think obviously it's Yadua, you don't make Besamim and Eish on Sunday. Also, going Rav Moshe, our Rebbe Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zeichat Tzadik Levracha, has a very important tshuva in Chelik Daled and Siman Ayin Ois Aleph, where he says, it's true that you don't need the Bari Priyagofen to be Yotzei Avdallah. Actually, that's Kemat Medina de Gemara. But Rav Moshe said, don't speak before the Mavdal drinks, because it's a part of your Avdallah, nachalts, even if you don't need it to be Yotzei, but it's a part of your Avdallah. So don't drink. It could be B'diavad your Yotzei, but Akapanim don't speak before the person before the Mavarech drinks. Legabe a telephone. So this is very related to the conversation we had last week. Last week, we were Zeicha to speak about Chomer Medina, if a person is allowed to make Avdallah and coffee and beer and all the juices and whatever. So we have a simple Eitzah. Let him just take a call up, it's a lady or something, and we'll see soon, it's all Shaila, if lady's making Avdallah. So let him just go and call up, she'll call up her neighbor, and her neighbor will make Avdallah, and she'll listen on the phone. So the truth is that this is a very, very big Shaila in the Paiskim. So them is Yankiv, Arashin Chafei, the Salmas Chaim, Revis Chaim, and Reish Ayin Zayin, and most Paiskim, including Rebbe Yashiv and certainly Rosh Shlomo Zalman, all held that you cannot be Yotzei on a telephone. This is a bigger sugya we actually was to talk about in the past. Interesting to know that Reb Moshe in Chelik Dalet, Siman Tzadi Aleph, Daled, talks about this case mamish. Shmiyas Avdallah Yedei telephone the Isha Nimtza Bebeis HaCholim. Is it allowed to be Yotzei on a telephone? The idea being that the telephone is not the actual voice of the person; it's a replica of the voice. So why should that be Yotzei? It's like maybe you could say Amen, but you're not hearing a human voice. I don't know if a telephone's a guy. Maybe the person inside the telephone maybe is a guy, right? Or maybe the person inside the telephone is a katan. So Rav Moshe says that maybe b'di eved b'shasat chak you are yotzei. Rav Moshe doesn't explain here so much as chiddush. The idea of Rav Moshe seems to be that just like sound waves is one wave to another wave to another wave, so that's also not direct my first sound wave. So my sound wave caused the replica. Maybe that's considered my voice. That it would come out. Now don't get confused, Rabbi say you yotzei divrei Torah with me on Zoom. Gam Zoom l'toiva. But akapanim legabe to be yotzei shemer ka'oina, the din of tefillah, that could be very well very different. So what would you say after reading this tshuva? If you'd call up Rav Moshe and you'd ask Rav Moshe, no, you call him on the telephone. You call up Rav Moshe and you ask him, no, tachlis, should my wife make Havdalah on Chomer Medina? Or can I be Moitzier on the phone? So you would think, it sounds like, Chomer Medina was very big shilas, maybe see what we spoke about last week, and making on the phone is also very big shilas. So what should you do? So it's interesting. I heard a Maisa with Rav Reuven, Rav Reuven Feinstein, that Rav Reuven said over that when his wife was in the hospital having a baby, so they asked Rav Moshe this shaila, should she be Yotzei on the telephone? Or should she make her own Avdallah on milk, which was the most b'diavad of the Chomer Mediyas. Today we said you can't even be Yotzei, but even back then it was the most b'diavad. And apparently Rav Moshe Paskin, you should make it on milk, just to show you how b'diavad it is to make on a telephone. It's true this would be the same shaila with a hearing aid, like I'm being asked, and in a chanami, the person has the hearing aid, this should be making it on its own. But b'diavad b'shazat chak, there is a going Rav Moshe. It's certainly not l'chliya. Certainly, we'll see in a moment that if a lady has a choice of making Havdalah herself on a regular cup of grape juice or on a regular Chomer Medina, a natural juice, there's no shaila that it's better than a telephone. And no question, la halacha, and we'll see soon a lady could make Havdalah, and therefore that would be the halacha. Derech Agav, there's a whole Seder Dvarim over here of how to come to make Havdalah. A person has to pour the wine over. It's interesting. The Ramah says, al ha'aretz. The Mishnah Berurah in Ziv Ganei says when you pour the wine, let it overflow onto the floor. I've never saw that minig. I've seen the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch minig in Siman Tzadi Vav Siv Zayin. He says let it fall onto the plate. I think your wives and your are holding by the minig of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch to let it spill onto the plate. I don't think your wives are holding by the minig of the Ramah, even though it's the minig of the Ramah and the Graz and the Taz and the Magen Avram and the Derech HaChaim, the Nesivos and the Mishnah Berurah and Ziv Ganei that it's supposed to spill onto the floor. So But I guess one thing for sure, if it spills on the floor, don't get upset. Number one, you're being Mekayim the meaning of the Ramah. And number two, what's the whole reason why we spill the wine on Motzei Shabbos? Some say because to show a person, look, things are going to spill this week and things are going to happen this week. And it's not kedai to get upset. So definitely don't get upset when the wine spills on the floor. Also very important to know that next year is Shemitah. And when there's Shemitah wine in the world. There's Oitzer Beis Din, which is for Inzer mentioned, Oitzer Beis Din wines, etc. And that wine has a Kedushas Shvius. Kedushas Shvius wine is only given, like it says in the pasuk in this week's Parasha Agavelde, because he had the Shmai of the Kallus. Oitzer Beis Din wine is Kedushas Shvius, which is only allowed to be used le'ochla, and not to make skulas and spilling and whatever. So when you're going to use Oitzer Beis Din wine, drink it, and drink every bit. And do not pour out the fire, and do not let it spill over, because Oitzer Beis Din wine is improper to use for anything else except for the purpose of drinking. Now, Lamaisa, when it comes tachlis to women in Havdalah, so let's go in order. Number one is women in drinking Havdalah, drinking the wine before anything else, right? Tachlis, are they going to grow a beard? That's what everybody wants to know. Are they going to grow a beard if they drink the Havdalah? So the truth is, it's not a mishagas that a woman shouldn't drink the Havdalah wine. Like I was once heard a certain person who seemed to say with tremendous confidence that it's all a mishagas, chas v'lahagid, such a thing. If there's a minig Yisrael and people say it, it's coming from somewhere. This one happens to come from very big places. The Mogen Avram, it says they were noyeg anoshim, he brings from the Shla, not to drink Havdalah. The emes is that the Leket Yosher, when he brings down memories of his Rebbe, the Trumas Hadeshin, in page 57, he brings down, I remember my Rebbe, the Trumas Hadeshin, passing the Havdalah wine to his wife. And the Aruch HaShulchan in Zivei writes, I saw that people say you shouldn't drink the Havdalah wine. And he says, you should know, not everyone in Navardik or Petersburg, where the Aruch HaShulchan was from, not everybody was chayshish for this. But the Shla Rabbi said was chayshish for this, al pi Kabbalah, b'soid ha'etz shechata b'yadam harishayin, it has to do with that. And I don't know, right? Now, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. If you read the Shla inside, it sounds like the issue is only wine. It sounds like it's, I'm going to tell you all something very interesting. It sounds like the issue is only wine because it has to do with the Eitz Hadas, which was a geffen. And the truth is, Rabbi Yankiv Zichron Levracha in the 325th Ara brings down that she has an Eitz to make Havdalah on beer. And he says the whole Indian has to do with Chet Adam Arishin, and that was only, they didn't have beer back then. That was not the Chet Adam Arishin. So it seemed that the whole Indian al pi Kabbalah not to be drinking the wine is only dafka wine, but not beer. I was thinking the exact opposite. If you think about it, where does it come from? This the Gans of El Zaktas. Where does it come from that a woman is going to make Havdalah on wine and she's going to grow a beard? Where does that come from? The Shla doesn't talk about beards, Rabbi Yisai. So there's a few Makairis. The Chazon Ish is brought to have said in the Maisa Ish in Chelek in page 93 that people made a mistake. They said that a woman grows a beard if she makes Havdalah. They meant not that not if you drink you get a beard. The one that has a beard, he drinks. So not that if you drink you get a beard. It's the one that drinks is the one with the beard. So that's what Chazon Ish said. But the emes is that the world says it. So maybe a little bit of a makar. There's a Gemara in Shabbos at Daf Peyam Beis. The Gemara in Shabbos Peyam Beis says, Rav Bibi, Amar Nachman, Rav Bibi, the Shasi Shechra, Rav Bibi that he drinks beer, Boyin Bansei Tafla. His daughters need special hair removal things because beer causes hair growth, and it causes hair growth in unwanted places. So it seems to be that the minhag came like the exact opposite, because it used to be the minhag of the ganze Welt was they made Havdalah on beer. And since they made Havdalah on beer, and everyone knows the Gemara, in Shabbos Tabem Beis, that if you drink beer, you get hair growth. So that's where it came from that the ladies say that don't make Havdalah, don't drink the beer, don't drink Havdalah because you're going to grow a beard, right? Beard, Gzeira Shava. But Lemaisa Abaisai, it is definitely the meaning that the ladies don't drink, and they don't drink the beer and they don't drink the wine. But Al Kapanim will see in a moment that in a situation where a lady has to make Havdalah, Shivadai Minadin 100% can drink it, and it's and on my shoulders and on my beard, she's not going to grow one. And Lemaisa, we'll see in a moment that not the vada to to go against the Minig Yisrael, a woman lechatchila will see not to maybe necessarily not to make Havdalah. But if she does have to make Havdalah for some reason, she certainly is allowed to drink the wine, the beer, etc. The Maisa, do you do Havdalah standing? Sivav, as we move through the Shulchan Aruch, we skipped a little bit. Siv Beis we skipped because that's Chomer Medina, which we did last week. Sivav, do you make Havdalah standing or sitting? Ask your father. I don't know. My father stands, so I stand. Your father sits, so you sit. If you want to know names and faces, so the Svardim Taka sit, even though the Ben Ish Chai brings in Parshas Vayetze that they should stand. But that's, don't want to get involved in intertribal strife. But the Mechaber says to sit. The Gabi the Ashkenazim, the Ramah, the Lavush, the Derech Chaim, the Balatanya, the Chayodam, and the Tzidur, the Chavetz Chaim, the Brisker Rav, most of our Gedolim all stood during Havdalah. Even those that would sit, but by Havdalah, they would stand during Havdalah. However, the Goin, and this is the minig in Bnei Brak, this is the minig of Reb Chaim Kanievsky that I saw with my eyes. The Goin Taka sat, the Meiser Rab brings down, the Goin sat during Havdalah. The reasons we'll talk about it under, well, maybe really there has to do with if you're supposed to be Malava, so then you have to stand to cover the Livui. But the sitting is more of a kfiyas. Okay, sitting during the drinking, everybody agrees. That's a Gemara in Gittin and Afayin that you're always supposed to sit while you're drinking. That's that. Another thing that it's interesting, I don't see so many people on makbid on this, but the Mechaber brings down that when you make Havdalah, so you hold the wine, the cup, the same way you hold any kais shel yayin, you take it from the bottom and you make your fingers around and you hold it even at sports time. And in the other hand, your right hand, you hold the wine, and in the left hand, you're supposed to be holding besamim. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. And you hold the besamim while you're making it. This is brought in the Shulchan Aruch. The Aruch HaShulchan says that people aren't makbid on this. We don't do this. But, okay, Aruch HaShulchan doesn't say you don't have to do it. I'm sorry, the Aruch HaShulchan doesn't say you're not allowed to do it. The Aruch HaShulchan says that most people don't have this minig. But another thing is, everybody saying, when it comes time for making the besamim, so then you switch the hands. As I state in the Shulchan Aruch, once again, the Aruch HaShulchan is not into this so much. So if you don't have that minig, no, you don't have that minig. If you don't have that minig. Also, interesting, in the Mekubalim, it's mashma that when you do the H, this is all probably for a different sugya, but when you do the H, the Mekubalim say, only the right hand. I see the velt they're doing with hands and feet and everything. Each person should do their minig, but the Mekubalim say only the right hand. There's a whole shaila if you do it before, if you do it after. I do it before, and then after. You're supposed to look at the nails, but that's not our sugya. Let me get right to Nashim. Let's go to the sugya of Nashim. Ladies, our ladies, chayiv and Havdalah. With this, we started this year, and let's go weiter with this. Shulchan Aruch says Nashim chayavis b'Havdalah kishem shechayavis b'Kiddush. Sif ches. Ladies are chayiv in Havdalah. And yesh mishachaylik. This is the machlekes we spoke about in the beginning. If you hold Havdalah as deraisa, then Havana ladies are chayiv. And that's the Ekashit in the Shulchan Aruch. Yesh mishachaylik holds that Havdalah is a din derabanan. Umemela, it's like any other mitzvah say Shasman Gram. It's not related to Shabbos, it's related to Motzei Shabbos. So, who paskins like the Mechaber, the Kitzer Shulchan Aruch, simple yid, he reads Kitzer, straight up, no questions. Nashim chayavis b'Havdalah. The Yavitz in his siddur, Nashim chayavis b'Havdalah, comes again the Ramah in Sivches. And the Ramah says, but they shouldn't do it themselves because it's a shayla. They should hear it from someone else. And that really is the hanhaga, certainly of the Ashkenazi Yidden. But you must know that the Bach and the Magen Avram and the Pri Chadash and the Graz and our Rebbe, the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkot Lamed Hey, and in Sha'at Tzion also, but Al Kopanim, the Mishnah Berurah says, Masik HaMogen Avram, that a Iker Kabach, that a lady is allowed to make Havdalah. What about the Ner? Is a lady allowed to make a bracha on the Ner? Why would the Ner be different? Because the Ner is clearly a mitzvah sasei shazran grama. Now, everybody say, so what? It's a mitzvah sasei shazran grama. Don't ladies say birchas hashachar? So why shouldn't they be able to make a mitzvah? So let them, in a chanami, maybe she's not chayiv, but she's allowed to. But there's a very difficult bir halacha to read over here, which would take a long time. And Sivches, the bir halacha, as it sounds like that maybe she's not chayiv in the Ner. And the Shayna halacha is Rav Chaim Kanievsky has it sad that when she's making Havdalah, she should leave out Ner. It's a tremendous chiddush, Rabbi Say. The pashtus is is that a lady could make a ner. She could make a bracha on the ner, because even if she's not chayiv, but it's no less than a mitzvah to say she's my grandma. Goyin Rav Moshe HaRav ben Choshen Mishpat Chelik Beis Mem Zayin Ois Beis. He says Lanias Daiti Yesh Levarech Al Berachas HaNer. She can make a bracha on the ner, because even if it's a mitzvah to say she's my grandma, but why shouldn't she be able to do it? Why not? So the Maisa, if a lady is in a situation, I will call it, I guess, stuck, because by the ladies, when this happens, this is like, but if she's stuck, she'll make her own Havdalah, and she'll drink the wine, and she'll make the ner also, l'chayra. But let's go one by one, case by case, all the different, especially if most ladies are not holding by doing this. So let's try and help her out. For example, let's make a little bit of a sikkum over here. Okay, let's say your wife missed Havdalah, and you already heard Havdalah. You heard Havdalah in the shul, or sometimes a person's at a simcha and whatever, and he heard Havdalah. And, let's go one by one. You're at a simcha, and your wife wasn't at the Havdalah, so now she says, okay, make Havdalah for me. So it's so simple that you can make Havdalah for her. Now, this is very not simple. Very not simple. Because there is a tzad that a lady's putter from Havdalah. Elamai, but it's a mitzvah to say shazman grama. But then you don't have arvis on her chiyuv. By kiddush, you have arvis because she's vaday chayiv in kiddush. So if you made a kiddush, you could be meitzir because she has a chiyuv and you have a chiyuv. We spoke about this once. There's a shayla if there's arvis by noshim, but we paskin there is. Okay, nishkaferlich. But here, Abaisai, there's a tzad in the Rishonim that a lady's pater in Havdalah. If a lady is pater in Havdalah, albeit that she's allowed to make Havdalah, but there can't be arvis. I can't say I have a responsibility to take care of your responsibility because she has no responsibility to make Havdalah. She's just allowed to make Havdalah. And this is why Rabbi say when she comes to you and says to you, I missed Havdalah, and you already heard Havdalah. So the first reaction should be, would you mind making Havdalah yourself? Rabbi Kallus said, you're not going to grow a beard. And in this case, it's much better that she should make her own Havdalah. Obviously, you can get another man to make Havdalah, halavai. But that's one reason why she should make her own Havdalah. Another reason is she's a baki. In general, you're not supposed to get somebody else to be mitzi you that already was yotzei if you're a baki. Number three is that it's not so much this iris for a lady at all. So, but Lamaisa Abaisai, she's not masking sometimes, right? And she tells you, women cook and men make Havdalah, right? So you have to know that the Iker Shitas HaPoiskim is that a woman is chayiv. And if the Iker Shitas HaPoiskim is a woman's chayiv, then the Iker Shita is that there is arvis on ladies. So then the Iker Shita would hold that I can, yes, make Havdalah for my wife if she missed it. However, that's not the most lechatchila, number one. And number two, even more so, is that you should not make the eish for her. You shouldn't make the eish for her. And as a matter of fact, you should even probably make the besamim herself, but you shouldn't make the eish because that for sure she's not chayiv in the eish. And l'chayra, what would happen? A lady's by herself for Shabbos, and she's with her bar mitzvah boy, let's say. And the bar mitzvah boy, could the bar mitzvah boy be moitzi, the mommy bear in Havdalah? So she's not holding by making her own Havdalah. So in that case, we would tell her, say Baruch HaMavdal ben Kodesh L'Chol, and now you yoytze at least the Drabanan, and then he'll be moitzi you. I'm talking in a case where he didn't make Havdalah yet, not that child, a different child. In general, should a bar mitzvah boy be making Havdalah if we don't know about Shtei Cyrus? So make her that she should have said already Baruch HaMavdal ben Kodesh L'Chol. What about if the child is a katan? That's already very not pashit. That's already very not pashit because he's a katan, and it's even if he has it, there are banan, but that's already much less pashit.
But Rabbi daven in shul on Motzei Shabbos that makes Havdalah in shul as a Ashkenazi shul as part of davening, and then I'm a little quicker. So I'm in Vinayam and they're making Havdalah. Do I have to have a hepach kavana in order to take care of this problem, not to be yaitza Havdalah, or is it sufficiently just not to have a kavana?
I think what's the meaning? What's the meaning?
With my wife.
The meaning, I think, by most people is not to be yaitze Havdalah in the shul. Am I correct?
That shul has a big singles ilam and a big female ilam, so the kind of the idolatry, you might see those people, and they happen to be in that shul.
Well, if you're anyway saying
isn't there a sheet that says you actively should have a hepach kavan and not to be yaitze?
There is such a sheet that dafka in this time period in Balatanya, the Graz says by Sfiras HaOmer, when he says even when the Chazan is saying Sfira, you should have kavanah not to be yotzei. Today, the poskim say that nobody has kavanah ever to be yotzei with the chazan, except for the people that missed. And therefore, it's not so pashut you need, but I guess you should have kavanah fakir. However, if you're in the middle of davening, you don't need kavanah fakir because you're not going to be able to be yotzei anyways. But certainly, Rabbi Say, the telephone option should not be done. And if she doesn't want to make Havdalah, teach her that she's allowed to make Havdalah. And let's say Khalila, the husband is a diabetic. I got asked this, Shaila. The husband's a diabetic. Here's you have Mamish, Marapsin, Igra, Marapsin. So the husband asked me that he's a diabetic. He's not allowed to have wine. He's not allowed to have grape juice. Right? And so he wants to know, what should he do? So the halacha is yes, his wife is allowed to make from Havdalah. Because we pass in the Iker Shita is that she's chayiv min haTorah, and he's chayiv min haTorah, and there's Arvis, and he'll, so I'm sorry. So in this case, he'll make the Havdalah, and she'll drink the wine. He'll make Havdalah, and she'll drink the wine. Right? It happens to be the other way is true also. In a situation where a woman would have to make Havdalah for a man, she could be Yitzim, she could be Mitzim b'diavad. Maybe not in the H like we spoke about, but Tachlis Havdalah, the man, if he's a diabetic. So he'll make Havdalah and she'll drink the wine and he'll take the beard. Let's say like this. Can I make a t'nai that I make Havdalah if my wife was Yotzei? I'm not making Havdalah. I'm at a simcha and I'm listening to Havdalah from the tzibur. And I'll say to myself like this. I don't know if my wife is in the crowd over here. If she's here, I want to be Yotzei Havdalah because she's being Yotzei Havdalah. If she's not here, I don't want to be Yotzei Havdalah. So the Shmir Shabbos brings down that yes, you can make Havdalah, and if your wife is Yotzei, then I'm Yotzei, and if not, I'm not Yotzei, and then you'll make Havdalah. That's a big chiddush, and the Shlomo Zalman has even a bigger chiddush. Shlomo Zalman says that you can make Havdalah. I'm sorry, if you listen to Havdalah, and then you realize, hey, wait, my wife might not be here. Toich kidei diber of the Havdalah, you can make that t'nai, and you can decide that I don't want it. You could negate it. That I found to be a tremendous chiddush. Which brings us to the last sugya over here of the Marmik Koimis, which is the halachas of eating before Havdalah, which are brought in Simon Reish Study Test. As you all know, you're not allowed to eat before Havdalah, and you're not allowed to drink before Havdalah. And that is basically should start basically from Shkia. It's true that the Mishnah Berurah says that if a person didn't have Shal Shudas, he is allowed to have Shal Shudas because Shal Shudas is the Din Deraisa, and he's allowed to have it even after Shkia. Rav Moshe Zechariah Levracha is brought to have said not to be more makel than 9 minutes after Shkia Ke'adur. Moshe had a shita until 9 minutes after Shkia to start a Sudas Shal Shudas. But Al Kapanim, we all know you don't eat after. Okay, each person could be their Shkia, Machabed every minute, but Al Kapanim Moshe said that a person shouldn't be starting Shal Shudas. L'chatchila, it should be by Shkia, and b'diavad, shouldn't be having Shal Shudas after 9 minutes, but certainly you're not supposed to eat before Havdalah. Drinking before Havdalah, there's one thing you are allowed to drink, Medina de Gemara, which is water. You're allowed to have water, and therefore a lady on Motzei Yom Kippur, if she can't, she doesn't want to make Havdalah by herself. Most ladies are scared to make Havdalah by themselves, even after this whole entire shir. But Lamaisa, she could certainly drink. You're allowed to drink water before Havdalah. Medina de Gemara, you're allowed to drink water before Havdalah. There are maybe some that have shtikla chumrah, but certainly when a lady is very thirsty and it's Motzei Yom Kippur, she's certainly allowed to drink water before Havdalah. The truth is that the Shulchan Aruch brings down that if you're in the middle of a Suda, everybody here knows you're allowed to continue your Suda. As everybody knows, when they done Hag of Shal Shudas every Motzei Shabbos, people continue the Shal Shudas and you're allowed to continue eating. I was glad I asked that, are you allowed to have dessert during the Shal Shudas? Because you're at dessert, you're making a new bracha. You make an eitz on the apple, you make a shahakal on a piece of chocolate and whatever. So are you allowed to have that in the middle of the Shal Shudas, or is that called a new meal? But that's Avada Toyas. Avada, once you're in the middle of a meal, then you just make a bracha on it because it wasn't covered by the Hamoitzi. But for Shteitzach, it's not considered a new meal. Which brings us to a very interesting shaila. This will be probably the last shaila. Is let's say a person had mezainis and he started before Shkia. He had cake before Shkia. Is he allowed to continue eating his cake after Shkia? Do we consider that as a meal? Or maybe the only meal is a bread meal, if that he started before Shkia or before the 9 minutes. So this is very interesting. The Aruch HaShulchan in Sif Hey says, he's sitting and he's drinking together with a group. It's not a kvias. Even if they're having Paris, and even if a filu mesainis, that's not a kvias. Only on Moitzi is a kvias. I think if you ask most people, this is what they would imagine. That if you started having cake before Shkia, you have to stop. I think most people would think like that. Lemaisa, I was Zeicha to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim and ask this question to the Melech of all of Klal Yisrael, Rav Elyashiv Zeicha Tzadik Livrocha, and Rav Elyashiv differentiated between two types of cakes, or cake situations. He differentiated between if you have a cake and you're being Yotzei Shalosh Shudas with that, which is of course very b'diavad, because Mikra Din, and that's Gepaskin in Shulchan Aruch and Siman Reish Savi Aleph, that you're supposed to have bread for Shalosh Challah for Shalosh Shudas. But if you're being Yotzei Shalosh Shudas with Mezainis, then it's Zikr as a shame of a Suda. So Rav Elyashiv said, then you'd be allowed to continue. But so Rav Elyashiv, if you were already Yotzei Shalosh Shudas in the afternoon, you already had Shalosh Shudas, and now you just having a piece of cake. So then Rav Elyashiv said you have to stop immediately, because then that's the case that the Aruch HaShulchan Yigrad held. They think even that the Aruch HaShulchan would agree to this. Eish Ladan B'zeh. No, what'd you learn today, Rabbi Isai? You learned the biggest side. You learned that Lulei Toirascha Shashui. Oh, as avadati beyond you. Without the Halak Torah and the Simcha of the Torah, Rabbi Isai. So then, anyways, what would be with us? So the only way to a person to go on and to go stark is to invite her and to delve into the Halak Torah and the Simchas of Torah. Halavai, the Bala Nechamas will be Menachamas and will be Zeicha to see the Niftarim, Bekarev Mamish, B'meir B'meinu Amein.